So believe it or not, regardless of it not being covered in the media, the Federal Reserve absolutely has a horse in the race when it comes to the government shutdown. Since COVID, the Federal Reserve has been forced to go to one extreme to the other when it comes to how to manage the economy. And it's important for you to understand this because your money, your job, your economics is dragged directly into what we're experiencing between fiscal policy and the government and the Federal Reserve's policies and how they function in response to the economy and the needs of the American public. So when it comes to the government shutdown, most of you probably have a pretty good idea. It's basically fiscal debate from one side of the political aisle to the other, how we should spend the money that the United States is going to borrow. And when that is not agreed upon at a certain point in time, essentially what happens is by law, law of the land, we're not allowed to function in non-essential capacities until we agree upon it politically. The outcome of that situation amongst the disaster infrastructure-wise to the United States, because a lot of money that the government, that flows through the government, that takes care of the basic needs, necessities, and functionalities in the country, in the public sector, come to a grinding halt. The other side of that coin is for the Federal Reserve. At the moment, there's a short-term benefit that I'm sure has to be somewhat enticing to the Federal Reserve. Now, mind you, there's long-term implications of government shutdown, especially if it's extensive, If it's extensive enough, then there could be long-term issues to the credit rating of the United States. The data that is needed to make, political and decisions for the Federal Reserve doesn't get collected and doesn't allow them to make the policies that they need to make. So that having been said, there are short-term benefits. And the short-term benefits would be that the Federal Reserve would get what it needs to continue to slow down inflation. If you have a government shutdown, it's already been documented and well studied that there's a notable decrease in economic activity the longer that shutdown plays out. The statistics have shown basically where there's like a 0.2% drop in GDP every so many weeks that the government is shut down. It's pretty significant. The government has been shut down maybe 8 times, I believe, in the last couple of decades, or a few decades or so. The longest being in 2018. In the current economic conditions that we're in, essentially the Federal Reserve, honestly in the short term, could benefit policy-wise by a government shutdown because that drop in GDP helps their fight against inflation without them having to push rates up to do so. Again, long-term implications could play out from that because of the economic environment we're already in and because interest rates are higher than they've been over 2 decades. This absolutely, with the government shutdown can cause a problem. But that having been said in the short term, the fact that, so many people wouldn't be getting benefits, so many people wouldn't be getting access to money, so many government workers wouldn't have access to certain income, so on and so forth. These things being at play would absolutely play into the inability for Americans to spend money and continue to put pressure on the economy when it comes to inflation. And this is something that the Federal Reserve has to be watching. Now, on paper, the Federal Reserve does not have a direct involvement on whether or not we have a government shutdown. But I did want to point out that there's incentive, or there's some, there's a positive in the short term to the direction that the Federal Reserve is trying to push our economy by having a government shutdown. And it's something important for us to understand because these are all the grand pieces on the chessboard. And it's important for your personal wallet, your personal economy, to understand how these things can play out, who could benefit from it, how you can prepare and prep yourself. So you want to make sure the next time this comes around in 45 days, or so, at the time of this recording, maybe it'll be about 30 days or so, that you understand that, not everybody is going to be, hollering and screaming, or, not everybody's going to see it to be a complete negative if we end up with a government shutdown for a period of time, because overall that benefits the Federal Reserve's fight towards inflation. So I wanted to make this abundantly clear for those of you who are paying attention to this. Be mindful of how these things function because, again, they directly impact your personal economics, your personal wallet. So all my pioneers, I want you to comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are about the government shutdown, the political theater that's playing out. And I want you to let me know what you think about the Federal Reserve's interest in this situation. Do you believe that this is something that they would see as a short-term benefit, or do you think it would be a disaster from the onset? Other than that, I want you guys to comment down below and let me know where you are personally. Are you affected by the government shutdown? Are you a government worker? Let me know where you are in the middle of this mix, because unfortunately, many of us are casualties without having any voice in this situation. To all my pioneers, if you want to learn more about the channel, if you want to learn more about myself, start in the description section and work your way to the About section. Like, comment, subscribe. Other than that, I want y'all to stay focused, stay in motion. I'll see y'all soon.